If you want to make money woodworking, then the first thing you have to do is select projects to make that will sell very well. So in today's video, I want to give you 5 project ideas that sell really, really well. And if you stick around to the very end, I'll even give you a few honorable mentions that didn't make my top 5. All of these are projects that I've made before. Most of them I've sold very well. One of the projects I'm going to tell you about, I just made for the first time, and I think it's going to sell really well, but I'll tell you more about that later. So just keep watching. Number 1 is succulent planters. I love succulent planters because they're very, very easy to make. You don't need a lot of tools at all. I mean, you can really make these with just a saw, a drill press, and a sander. That's really all you need. It takes minimal tools to make. Basically what I do is laminate up a long, thick board, cut it into sections. You can cut them into circles, drill holes, coat that with epoxy, sand it, finish it, throw a succulent planter in there, and you have some really, really nice home decor. These have been a personal bestseller for me, especially when I go to craft shows. And I think that's probably because I sell them at a lower price point. I usually sell them between $20 and $25 per succulent planter. And so it's a really great thing that just sells well because when people see it, it's so cute and it doesn't cost that much money. And so they usually buy 1 or 2 or 3. They are an amazing, amazing seller. I'll leave a link to a video right up here where I'll walk you through how I make these succulent planters in more detail. So if you're interested in selling some succulent planters, check out that video. Number 2, this is probably easier to make than even succulent planters, and it is coasters. Once again, you could probably make these coasters with just a table saw and a sander. Not a lot of tools required. What I do, I believe for most of my coasters, is I make them about 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 inches. Sometimes I just make it out of one type of wood. Sometimes I laminate lots of different species of wood to give the coasters a little bit more interest. But these, once again, have been a great seller for me. Here's a few reasons why I love coasters. 1, they sell great at craft shows. I usually sell them around $15 to $20 for a set of 4 coasters. You can adjust that for your market, but they sell very well at craft shows, but they're also great to sell online because you can throw them in a very small package, ship them pretty inexpensively. And so if you sell your projects on Etsy or on social media like Facebook, Instagram, and you want to ship some coasters halfway across the country, you can do that in a very cost-effective manner. With one day in the shop, you could probably batch out hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of coasters and then sell them online over the next few weeks. A power tip for selling coasters, especially if you're at a craft show, is pair them up with a more expensive product. For example, if you have a really nice cutting board, maybe you're selling it for $100, $120, you might say, hey, if you buy this cutting board, I'll throw in a set of 2 coasters or a set of 4 coasters for free. And so not only do coasters sell very well, you can sometimes use them as kind of a incentive or a promotion to sell some of your bigger items at a higher price point. Number 3, this is one that I'm really excited about. It is check presenters. Now, full transparency, I have yet to sell my first check presenter, but I also just made this about a week ago. And so what I'm actually doing right now, I have a batch of check presenters right behind me. This is one that's finished. And I am going to local restaurants in my area and I'm saying, hey, instead of using just a generic leather check presenter that you find on Amazon, get one of these. It has a lot of character, is being presented to the customer right before they're deciding how much they want to tip. And so just having a very nice custom made check presenter to sell to restaurants can be an absolute win. Several things you can do to up your game with these. Tip number 1, go to the restaurant and see what kind of vibe they have. Some restaurants might be a little more high end, kind of like a steakhouse, very nice restaurant. If that's the case, probably lean toward making these out of some black walnut. However, if you go to a restaurant, it's maybe a little bit more rustic. Maybe you want to go with some hickory check presenters. Think about the type of restaurant you're pitching this to and then design the check presenters for that restaurant specifically. What I've been doing recently is I've been taking one of these check presenters, putting my business card clipped in the top and saying, hey, Here's what I make. I would love to make some for your restaurant. Let me know if you're interested. Here's a quote specific to your restaurant. I'm going to be doing this over the next few weeks for several restaurants. I'm going to make a video devoted just to these check presenters. So if you're interested in that video and seeing how it turns out for me, how much I sell, hit the subscribe button and you'll see that video in a few weeks. One more power tip for check presenters, if you have a CNC router, is you can add the restaurant's logo pretty quickly using your CNC router. Maybe you want to backfill that with epoxy, and it's just another way to probably up your price point. You maybe could charge a few extra dollars if you put their logo on the check presenter, but more than likely the restaurant will love that and it will increase your margins as you sell these check presenters. One more note on check presenters. I know I've been going on and on about these for a while, but it's just kind of new on my mind. It's the new project that I'm working on right now. I love selling to businesses because they are trying to make a profit themselves. They're going to want to include you on their success. If they're opening up a new location, they might say, hey, we need 50 more check presenters for our new restaurant. 50 check presenters, you can batch that out in one day, and it'll be a great, great way for you to make money. Fourth woodworking project that sells really, really well, it is cutting boards and charcuterie boards. This is one that I made semi-recently. It's just got a handle, and you can tell this is a very simple build. I have a pretty old video on the channel that talks about how I make charcuterie boards. I'll link it right up here if you're interested in checking that out. But these, once again, at craft shows have been a great seller for me. I've also sold lots of these on social media, through Instagram, and just word of mouth as well. I love cutting boards and charcuterie boards. I know it's probably talked about a lot, but you can make them as nice and as complex or as basic and simple as you want to. You can just do a simple long grain glue up with the same species of wood, plane it down, sand it down, put some finish on it, and sell it at a lower price point, maybe $40, $45, $50. Or you can make a more complex cutting board like the one you see right here, sell it for $100, $120. And both of them, in my experience, have sold very, very well. Just kind of depends on the type of customer you're selling to. If you're going to a craft show, I would recommend bringing a mix of both, because you're gonna have some people who really see that ingrained cutting board that's much more detailed and they'll appreciate that, but some people will just say, hey, it's the same size as this basic one over here and this one over here is half the cost, so I'm just going to buy this $45 cutting board. If you bring both, it gives more options for your customers to think about and purchase one. So I would recommend doing both. But cutting boards and charcuterie boards have been an amazing seller for me. If you're interested in how I make cutting boards and charcuterie boards, I have a whole playlist on the channel. I'll link it right up here. And I talk about making beginner cutting boards that sell at a lower price point, making in-grain cutting boards that would sell at a higher price point, making charcuterie boards, cheese boards, things like that. It's all in this playlist, so check that out. And if you have any questions, you can comment on one of those videos, and I usually respond to those comments. Project number 5 is folding camp chairs. Once again, I love this project because really, like all of the projects I've talked about in this video, you can make it with very minimal tools. In fact, if you don't even have a woodworking shop, you can probably just make these with extension cords and a folding table out in your yard. They are dead simple to make. You can make them with just a drill and a jigsaw and a sander, and they are so cool. They fold down so that they are really easy to store, but they're very comfortable chairs that people will want to buy to put around a campfire, to put at a campsite, maybe to tailgate with. These camp chairs, I promise, will be a great seller for you. Once again, I have a whole video on the details of how I built these camp chairs, linked right up here and in the description. Check it out if you are interested. So those are my top 5 projects right now that I would recommend making if you want to make money woodworking. I did want to give you 2 honorable mentions, just things that you might want to, as you get more advanced, get more experience selling your woodworking projects, that you might can take on. And number 1 with the honorable mention is an epoxy serving tray. I have a video that I'll link in the description on how I made this exact serving tray. And I think what I'm going to do before I try to sell this one is actually add some handles on it, because really I don't recommend people cutting veggies or anything like that on an epoxy cutting board. So I always market them as a serving tray, but these will sell so well. People right now love the epoxy river type serving trays, and so these are not only amazingly fun to make, but they will sell very well at a higher price point. Once I throw some handles on this board, I'm gonna probably sell it for, I don't know, I'm thinking probably $120. This will be a great seller for you. If you've never done any work with epoxy, I'm gonna leave a link in the description to some Total Boat products that I love. And you'll actually, if you use the link in the description, be able to get a little discount on your purchase with Total Boat epoxy. So check out that if you're interested in making one of these epoxy serving boards. And number 2 for the honorable mentions, it is coffee tables. I've made a lot of coffee tables in my time. I've sold several of them, and once again, they're really fun to make and they're great to sell to a higher price point. Couple of tips on selling coffee tables. Number 1, if you can, market to businesses. In general, businesses are going to buy more furniture than an individual consumer because they have more space to put furniture in. Coffee shops need coffee tables. Groundbreaking idea, I know. So if you are already selling to restaurants or coffee shops, maybe you've been selling check presenters like we talked about earlier, once you have an established relationship, it's great to go in and say, hey, don't know if you know this, but I also make coffee tables and I would love to sell you a few if it's something that you are interested in. I have several videos on the channel about making epoxy river coffee tables. I've also just made coffee tables with live edge slabs without any epoxy and put metal legs on them. So I'll link a few videos down in the description if you're interested in making some coffee tables, but these will be a great seller for you. They've been a great seller for me, and they're really, once again, pretty simple to make, but they look absolutely beautiful. Quick tip on all of these projects that I would recommend to you. It will help you make more money as you're selling these projects at craft shows, to businesses, online, whatever you are doing. When you are in the shop, build projects in batches. What I mean is you really won't take much more time making 10 cutting boards than it takes to make 2 cutting boards. It's way easier to make 100 coasters at one time than it is to make 10 coasters at one time. So try to build in bigger batches as much as reasonable, and it will help your profit margins because your time per unit will go down. You won't have to set up your table saw just to make 1 cut. You're setting up your table saw to make 100 cuts. It makes you much more efficient, and that will increase your profit margins. When I learned this, I was actually able to lower my prices on my woodworking projects a little bit, still be profitable, and it helps my sales go up. And so build in batches. I think it's more enjoyable, and it definitely will help you make more money as a woodworker. Hey, let me know in the comments what projects you have sold as a woodworker. I would love to learn from you, and I may even feature your ideas on a future video. Now, if you're serious about making money as a woodworker, check out this video right here because I talk about 3 different strategies that you can use to make money with woodworking. So click on this video and I'll see you there.